All right, you saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and people running for city council there, and one was not there, Jan Walzak, who did not speak. But I have with us here, and first of all, I want to thank Dallas Pearson for getting that video, getting down there. Happened just hours ago and having it here, so appreciate him doing that. But with us today, we have Eric Ekstrand, and glad to have you here, Eric.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, good to see you.
Good to see you.
And you're running for this great North St. Paul City Council.
I am, and I'm definitely taking the approach that, you know, all politics is local, and I don't know how much local you can get than trying to run for a city council seat.
That absolutely, that's the ground root of everything there.
Absolutely.
So, oh, you're not getting his mic? Okay. Well, we're in number 7. Is there a battery in there?
Yeah.
Okay. You hearing nothing
hear
from him?
Anything?
Very little.
Okay.
How about now?
I'm going to move this. I don't know if you can hear me in there, but yeah, you should be able to. I'm going to move this to number 8 and see how that works. So.
And this is what live television is
Live
about.
TV, that's why we love it here. Commercial-free live TV.
Absolutely.
Got to put that in. That doesn't happen very much anymore. So, Eric, tell us about your family.
Sure.
And how long you've been in North St. Paul.
I've been in North St. Paul, I think about 15 years now. Married, 4 children, 4 boys, been in the community, involved in various things with them a lot of the times, coaching football, coaching softball, volunteering at the school, part of the PTA, those kinds of activities. So a lot of the community involvement that I've been involved in, scouting and things like that, has been, you know, revolving around the kids and being a part of their lives by, you know, being part of the organizations that are supporting them and the things that they're doing, you know, whether it be scouting or football or sports or something like that. So so that's what kind of where I come from, and that's kind of why I felt you know, motivated to run for the city council, because having that involvement and being involved in those different areas, and, you know, talking to people on the city council, talking to other people that live in the North St. Paul area, you know, there's a lot of concerns out there about the way things have been going, and maybe how money is being spent, and maybe how the council is addressing things and the city manager is addressing things. So I felt that my background in business, that maybe I could bring some of that mentality or logic to what's happening there, because I'm not seeing a lot of challenging to some of the things that are being proposed by the city manager or even the city council, and I think the citizens are looking for more of that understanding of why we're doing certain things a certain way. You know, we're looking at a budget of increase of, I think it's 2% of the taxes, the 2% levy. Looking at an 8% increase in, I believe it's water. I mean, my numbers we're basically looking at tax increases across the board, or fee increases across the board. I think the only thing that's not really touched is electric for some reason.
Okay.
But we're seeing water increases. So, you know, the question that comes back is, you know, why? And it was kind of interesting in this forum that Mary Cavall
Okay.
pulled together was Dave Zick, who was a previous member on the city council. He made a statement that you know, we have a great public works department. It's very small, and they do a ton of work. And, you know, unfortunately, the thing that first came to my mind was this very large public works facility that they just purchased, they just built for a very small town and very small staff that do it. And
right.
So my mind goes to, was that money well spent? And so those are the kinds of things that I'm going to focus on, being a council member. Hopefully I can be elected. And then the other thing is, you know, we've got a lot of empty space in North St. Paul, and I think the city could probably be doing a little bit more to try to encourage businesses into the community. I think there's been opportunities that have been missed or passed over, because I think there's too much complexity for businesses to come in, and we need to streamline that. Right now, the cities all over the metro area are competing for businesses to come there, and right now I think North St. Paul is struggling to compete.
Well, and of course the question would be, why are they struggling to compete? Are you just saying they're just not doing it right, or they're
Well,
it's too expensive for a business to be there? Or?
The one example that I used tonight, and I'll use with you, is there's an auto shop in North St. Paul called North St. Paul Auto. It's right on Century and 36.
Right.
I actually have had my car fixed there more than I should. But when I sat and talked to the owners, because they're great guys and they've done great work for me, and I had talked to them, and they said, you know, the weirdest thing is when we were looking at getting this space, we were told by the city manager we had to sell gas. And now
for an
auto repair place. So they wanted to open up a shop to do auto repair and only auto repair. But because the space that they were purchasing had previous gas pumps, the city manager was saying, you have to sell gas. Well, they're not. That's not their purpose. That's not the goal of what they wanted to do. So they're selling gas, which is nowhere near their business model, right? Their business model is fixing cars, not selling gas. And it's those kind. You know, it's that kind of example. If it's happening to them, there's got to be other examples that maybe we're not aware of, where businesses have tried to come in and some unreasonable requests are being made or demands are being made by the city that are pushing them away.
Well, I mean, that gets into what, you know, my experience is Maplewood, but in talking to people, you know, people want to buy property or looking at developing property, and the city's saying, no, you're not going to do that. And they actually have their own developers they want to buy the property, so they force the other developers that an individual may want to sell their property to, they force them away. But these people won't sell their property to a different developer, you know, because of whatever reason. You know, because it's the city's hand-picked people, which is just, I mean, that's corruption to the core. But I bring that up in the aspect of, what do you see is the role of the city council? What role did it play? And I also bring that up in relationship that I think, in contrast, like Maplewood, they're really trying to form their own social club, their own religion, in my mind. That's the way I put it, because they're trying to do things that are, in my opinion, outside of the purview of the city council, which is to streets and citizen protection, or dealing with issues that are for everybody, like in some situations, water and electric. So what do you see is important for North St. Paul and the city council's role?
You know, the city council, you know, just like any elected representative, whether it be at the local city level to, you know, state and federal level, you're meant to be a representative for the people that elected you. And so I think your number one role is you need to answer to the people that elected you. So I made this statement tonight, and it's a good question, because I said, you know, our role is we're the conduit to the city politics. You know, that we're elected. We should be there to listen to the citizens that elected us and try to resolve the issues that they're running into. Now, we're going to be able to fix everything? No, right? We can't fix everything. But I think that role is being lost in government as a whole, and we see it in Maplewood. We see it in North St. Paul, where, you know, contempt is a strong word, but there's almost a contempt for the citizens that elected these people to these offices. So I think the number one role that I see myself going into this position is, I need to repair that. We need to fix that bond between the citizens and the city council so that they can feel and know that their issues are being identified and resolved. The second responsibility of the city is to start focusing on priorities. Like you had mentioned, the city's responsibilities are around police and fire, infrastructure, things like that, roads. We need to focus on those things, and we need to understand that, you know, maybe, and I'm picking on the public works, but maybe this, you know, garage mahal, as it's been termed, didn't need to be built. Maybe we should have used that bonding money that was used, that we're having to pay back, to repair the pipes and the plumbing that we're having significant issues with right now, that we're going to still have to pay for. You know, it's that kind of prioritization that you start questioning the reason why decisions are being made. You know, we have staff that maybe we don't need. I hate to see people losing their job, but when I'm paying their bills, I want to make sure that the people that are doing the job are needed. And if they're needed, so be it. Let's keep them there.
Yeah.
But if they're not, we got to make some tough choices, because it is the taxpayers that ultimately are paying that job. When it comes to businesses, I'm a firm believer governments cannot build or make businesses. They can't make jobs, right? You hear that a lot.
Right.
But they sure can. They can sure deter businesses. They can make life miserable for a business that wants to grow or build, or build a new building or something like that, with the zoning and everything that the permitting process they have to go through. So where government can benefit and help businesses is try to find ways that encourages a business to come to their community, make it so that it's easier for them to get through the permitting process. And does that mean we got to change it? No, that means what we need to do is be more diligent about going through that process, doing what needs to be done, and keeping communication going. In my experience, things stall when there's no communication. Things come to a grinding halt.
Right.
If you put a permit in and you want to know the status of that permit, and it takes 5 days for somebody to get back to you, well, that's 5 days your business isn't running, and you're losing money. And we're seeing that, right now with the ordinance in North St. Paul. There's a bar ordinance that says that you have to sell food on Sunday or you can't sell liquor. And a lot of the establishments in North St. Paul were never set up for that. And they're struggling right now to first understand the ordinance and implement it. They want to follow the ordinance, but they're not getting a lot of good, positive, or constructive criticism from the city on how to follow it.
So the city passes this ordinance saying you have to do something, but they don't actually tell you how to do it, or they don't have they know what bars don't serve food on Sundays or didn't before. So these bars are being targeted, and so instead of going to the bars and explaining, here's what we expect you to do, and here's what the ordinance says, educate the people on the ordinance. What I hear you saying is they're just kind of leaving them alone and say, well, there's the ordinance, and someday we're going to come in and see if you're complying or not. And the way we want you to, but we're not going to tell you how that is exactly.
You hit on exactly what the problem is, and the American Legion is dealing with that right now. They were just at the City Council meeting on Tuesday again, and asking for that clarification, because the chief of police said one thing, the ordinance says something else, and they're looking for something in writing that states clearly how to follow the ordinance, and they're begging for it, and they're not getting it. Now, the mayor has said that they'll have something in writing by the end of this week. I'd be curious to see what happens. But it's that kind of stuff. I mean, people need to understand where the priorities need to be. I was talking to a nonprofit that was there, that was being represented there this evening at the discussion, and I want to say he's losing $10,000 a month because the bars are closed on Sunday in money that would be going to this nonprofit organization that benefits from the pull tabs and things like that. So you have businesses being hurt by not being able to sell liquor on Sunday. You have nonprofits being hurt by not being able to be open on Sunday for these businesses that provide them funds. So it's it's cumulative, and the amount of money that's being lost just doesn't need to be happening, all because of vagueness in a law and an ordinance that really doesn't need to be there. So communication, I think, is number one right now that we need to resolve.
So how many seats are open at the City Council?
There are 2 seats open.
Okay.
One,
and it's just a general election. There's no primary.
Correct.
It's November 6th.
Yep.
So it's just going to be the 2 top vote getters
Absolutely.
get in.
Yep.
And are these like vacant seats or open seats, or is this part of the regular schedule?
One is a vacant seat.
Okay.
It is part of the normal schedule. One was vacated by Bob Bruton, who's retiring.
Okay.
He's stepping down. And Jan Walzak is still running for her seat, which is up.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. And now I want to get back. So is it just the 2 top vote getters, or are there just 2 separate seats?
There's 2 separate seats, so it's going to be the 2 top vote getters.
So how many are running in the so-called Jan Walzak's seat?
Well, there's 6 individuals running.
Yeah.
So out of the 6, whoever get the top 2 votes would fill those 2 seats.
Okay.
Yep.
So right.
Yep.
That's interesting. I would rather see it as a,
this seat or that seat.
This seat or that seat,
Right.
and the people say I'm running for this one. But Doesn't happen.
That's not how it is right now in
No,
North St. Paul.
that's the law. That's the relationship between things.
Gotcha.
But I want to get back to this, the role of the city government, because now what I find in Maplewood, in this, let's put it this way: if somebody came to you and said, "I want the government to fund my church," or North St. Paul to help build my church and give us a donation, I would assume that you would say, no, that's not our role.
I would encourage them to pursue some other revenue.
All right.
Because we don't have any money right now.
Well, that may
and
be,
we
that may
wouldn't
be one
doing-
factor, but of course
it's not our role.
that never stops Maplewood.
Now,
because you can borrow money anytime you want,
well,
you know.
And that's not a fiscally responsible thing to do. You know, now where the city can help that church build whatever they're building is they can make sure that that permitting process that they go through is easily understood, streamlined, and in a way that doesn't cause them just a nightmare of time and money to get through that process. That's where the city needs to be focusing their time. You know, the city, any money they get, and everybody needs to remember that, right? Any money the city gets is through taxes. So any money the city gives is your tax money going out. And North St. Paul is struggling right now. We're losing LGA. You know, the state is broke, right? They were until recently. They're losing LGA. Now the city, to their credit, is working hard to try to resolve that and becoming less and less reliant on the LGA from the state, which is great. And it's local government aid, throwing out acronyms.
Yep. Got to be careful.
So to their credit, they're working on it. You know, but when we have bonding that was done for the current city hall, that was done for the new public works building, you know, to the tune of millions of dollars, we're paying on that debt. And we'll be paying on that debt whether we have it or not. And if they don't have it, they have to raise taxes, which is what they're doing.
Well, and then to bring it back, they also bonded for the community center or the athletic facility.
The community, okay.
Is it, what's it called? North St. Paul Community Center, right?
Yep.
Okay. And that hasn't been making money.
Nope.
And has that shut down?
It is in the process of being shut down. They've worked out a lease arrangement with District 622. So
they're coming in, the school district, Tartan, North St. Paul.
Right. Maplewood, Oakdale, North St. Paul.
Coming in and going to lease some of the space for the school.
Yep.
Okay.
And so that, you know, we're lucky that the school district is there to lease that space because, to your point, the community center has been, you know, hemorrhaging money for quite a long time. I think, you know, to the tune of $500,000 a year. And so they are very lucky that they have a tenant to come in there. Because I think one way or another, that community center was unfortunately going to close. It just was not being used by the community in the way that they probably would hope.
Right.
So it theoretically could have been empty.
And that gets back to why I brought up the church issue, because I see the community center, and Maplewood's got this problem, $350,000 a year, but in order to use it, you have to have a membership or pay rent, but all the city workers get to go there for free as a perk, but you as a tax-paying citizen don't get to use that.
Yeah.
And plus there's LA Fitness down the street, now one opening in by the Maplewood Mall. You have other workout places, Snap Fitness, you know, all over the place. It's in competition, and so the government's coming in and forcing associations. I am forced to associate with that community center through my tax dollars, at least in Maplewood, because I don't live in North St. Paul. However, government aid, or LGA, I'm forced to associate with that. And so I don't like this concept of forced associations. And that's where I say that's out of the purview of the government to be doing that type of thing. If these facilities are needed, the private sector will step in and build them, or an association of people like a church, because church builds gyms, you know, and they will build these things.
Absolutely.
Because they want to do that, and they have the money, and their money's at risk, not the taxpayers' money who's being forced to do this. So, I mean, that's kind of what I hear you saying, is that the city needs to prioritize their decisions better as to what their role is. And
absolutely, and I think, you know, it's an unfortunate sign of the times. You know, I remember growing up, living on a military base, you know, and the place to go was the community center for all intents and purposes.
Sure.
You know, they had pool tables, they had ping pong, they had dances. That's where you went, you know, to go hang out. But like you had mentioned, you go work out there and stuff like that too. But now we have private sector filling that need. And so where community centers filled a need at one point because the private sector wasn't, let's say, that's changing, to your point, right? There's all of these other facilities that are cropping up. You know, I look at, there's like Pump It Up in Oakdale. It's a place where kids can go bounce on these inflatables. There's another one in Oakdale, and unfortunately they're all in Oakdale. I'd love to see some in North St. Paul.
There you go.
Is a trampoline place, and I'm zoning on, I think it's called Jump It or something like that. But those are places now that kids can go and have fun. And to your point, you know, there's other places to go swim, and there's other places to go work out. And the need for a community center is unfortunately, because of the sign of the times, is slowly going away. I think North St. Paul, because it's a smaller town, we're seeing that effect. And unfortunately, I think we'll see more of that. But it's the nature of the beast, right? It's a free market economy. And
well, it should be.
You shouldn't be forced to subsidize something that other people have choices to do, and that's what we're doing with these things. That's what North St. Paul was doing with their community center. That's what Maplewood's doing with theirs. And I think we're going to see that hard choices need to be made, and we can't just keep things because that's what we've always done. We need to start thinking outside the box and say, do we really need this? And if we don't, then we got to make a choice and get rid of it.
Can somebody else fill that role?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's a private business out there that might be looking to fill that role, but they can't compete with a state-run organization.
Right.
And that's a big challenge.
Yeah, and you take clients away. Boy, I just had this thought in my head, and it just flew away.
That's okay. I can fill airtime.
I know you can. But I will struggle to get this out because I know what it is. But there is big talk, and of course Maplewood is now sharing stuff with North St. Paul and services and Park and Rec and stuff like that.
Yep.
But around the periphery, there's talking about a merger of the cities. And I don't know, I've heard a little bit of conversation, not a whole lot.
Right.
What are you hearing in North St. Paul as far as the talk of how that goes?
I haven't. I've heard rumors related. I think they're purely rumors. I have not heard anyone that I know in the council today talking about that. The only thing that I have heard is there's been discussions, and I think it's been brought up in a city council meeting, about the police force and the fire department, which right now North St. Paul pays for, and they rightfully should. That's one of those required services. But there's discussions about either contracting that out to either the county or to another police organization that surrounds North St. Paul. So I haven't heard anything about merging of the cities. I honestly think, it's a good, I'm trying to be positive, because the thing is, I think it was a good move on the city's part to look at sharing services, but it was also pointed out to me that even though the Parks and Recs are sharing services from some aspects, the people that cut the grass are still separate. So the schools still cut their grass. North St. Paul still cuts the grass. So there's labor opportunities, consolidation of labor there still, right? So there are still opportunities to share resources. Thank you.
Yeah.
I must be getting dry. And so there's still opportunities there, but I think it's a step in the right direction. Now, will North St. Paul at some point consolidate their police force and their fire department and contract with other cities? I think it should be looked at. And I think if it financially makes sense, we should consider
what's driving it there? I mean, to me, the city shouldn't be in a position to have to go there. And I was talking with somebody the other day, and well, yeah, for an economic reason, consolidation would be good. But then on the other hand, man, if I was a North St. Paul resident, to lose the name North St. Paul, to lose the identity that's been there, or you got to lose the name Maplewood, that may be a better thing. but to lose that identity, that'd be sad in my
Absolutely.
book. But not just on the emotional end, but you have a distinctive community, but it's being squandered by irresponsible spending. And you know, who are
Absolutely.
these developers out there that are pushing the development of these Taj Mahal, the public service,
Well,
or public
you know, it
works,
has to
you
be
know, I
approved by the
mean,
city council and the city
yeah,
manager. So
but the
somebody
developers
should
are
have been
behind
calling
there.
on that.
You know, I think developers are behind there pushing this
Well,
stuff, but
You know, they're a business though.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
they're trying to do what's best for them.
Right.
We got to be in a position to say, no, it's too much. You know, I
Yeah.
mean, we do that all the time, every time we go to the grocery store. But I don't think anybody is talking about merging the cities or North St. Paul merging with Maplewood or Oakdale or whatever. I think it's more, and I think rightfully so, I think the number I heard was like 53% of the North St. Paul budget is police and fire. So I
Okay.
think they're realistically looking at how can they save money, knowing LGA is going to continue to diminish and our tax base is shrinking.
okay. Well, Eric, thank you for coming on the show,
I
and at
appreciate you
such short
having me.
notice.
That's all right.
Like
It
5
worked
minutes
out.
before the show started.
I'm here for you. I'm happy
Yes,
to get out and
yes,
talk
you,
about these
yes,
things.
you have been. Well, and people also, you see Ekstrand, you saw his email up there.